New videos from the Kansas City Chiefs training camp are going viral, but not every clip has fans celebrating. One video has sparked major concern over Patrick Mahomes' recovery, leaving fans wondering if Kansas City's Super Bowl hopes are already in trouble. Let me catch you up. It started with a 14-second video the Chiefs posted themselves. Nothing dramatic on paper, just their franchise quarterback walking into a facility. But a caption read QB1 clocking into camp, alongside a shot of Patrick Mahomes making his way into the team's training camp at Missouri Western State University in St. Joseph, Missouri. That's normally a nothing moment, a guy walking, a hashtag. Except this time, everyone was watching his legs. The clip captures the quarterback walking into the facility, and several social media users focused on his left leg and questioned whether it showed signs of muscle loss after surgery. Fans slowed the footage down, froze frames, zoomed in. Several of them speculated that Mahomes' left calf appeared smaller than his right. The comments piled up fast. One user posted that the leg looked twisted and called it not a good sign, and another asked outright whether anyone else noticed what looked like muscle atrophy. A third account chimed in calling it flat out scary. Remember, this is the same knee that ended his season back in December. Mahomes went under the knife in December after suffering a torn ACL injury in his left knee during the Chiefs' late season loss to the Los Angeles Chargers in the 2025 campaign. So when a fresh camp clip dropped showing him walking a little differently than fans remembered, the internet did what it always does. It panicked first and asked questions later. Only, this wasn't the first camp clip. It wasn't even the last one that week, because right as concern was spreading about his gait, a second video dropped, and it flipped the entire conversation on its head. A training camp clip showed Mahomes rolling out and throwing on his injured leg, easing concerns about his ACL recovery, with the QB rolling out to his left, planting on the same leg he injured in Week 15 last year, and throwing a nice pass on the run. One writer called it the kind of vintage play that makes him such a devastating threat, and it was enough to get an entire fan base talking dynasty again within seconds. Then came the video that actually broke 2 million views. The Chiefs posted footage of their full quarterback room throwing together. And it wasn't just Mahomes. It featured the two-time NFL MVP, along with Justin Fields, Garrett Nussmeier, and Chris Oladokun. They all passed quickly, showcasing that they are in good shape ahead of the 2026 season. And Mahomes continues to recover from the torn ACL he sustained in December, but looks sharp and not hampered by his injury. The Chiefs captioned it with a simple line about their quarterback room, and fans ran with it. The clip on X has since gone viral, with more than 2 million views. That number matters. Training camp footage doesn't usually crack 1 million views, let alone 2. This isn't a highlight from a playoff game or a Super Bowl celebration. It's a Tuesday practice in a small Missouri college town, and it's still spreading. Part of why it spread is the group in that frame. Justin Fields isn't just a camp body, he's a starter caliber quarterback. The Chiefs went out and got specifically because they weren't sure how fast Mahomes would be ready. Kansas City brought in Justin Fields from the New York Jets to serve as insurance at the position, and he has 53 career NFL starts under his belt, likely making him the team's QB2 once the 3-time Super Bowl champion is back to full strength. Watching him sling passes next to Mahomes in the same rep window is exactly the kind of thing that makes casual fans stop scrolling. Then there's Garrett Nussmeier, a rookie the team spent a day 3 pick on, and Chris Oladokun, who went from a practice squad afterthought to a guy who actually started an NFL game last season. The Pittsburgh Steelers waived Oladokun in 2022, but he signed a practice squad deal with Kansas City, and the team promoted him to the active roster following Mahomes' injury the week prior. And he started his first NFL game on Christmas Day against the Denver Broncos. That's a real story sitting quietly behind Mahomes in the same shot. 4 arms, 4 different paths, 1 team, and a video that fans couldn't stop sharing. But the leg videos and the arm videos both point back to the same question hanging over the entire camp. Is Mahomes actually fine? And that's where head coach Andy Reid stepped in, because he wasn't about to let a slowed-down walking clip define the story. Every time a camp video stirs up worry, there's usually one person the cameras turn to next. And in Kansas City, that's always been Andy Reid. He didn't dodge the leg questions. He addressed them directly, and what he said calmed a lot of the noise almost instantly. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid offered a much more encouraging update, telling reporters that Mahomes is doing great with his rehab. He went further, laying out exactly where his quarterback stood physically. Reid said Mahomes has clearance to practice and do all the different periods that the team runs in camp. That's not a guy on a pitch count. That's a guy cleared for full work. Reid didn't stop at clearance either. He added that Mahomes will continue to receive daily evaluations from coaches, trainers, and team doctors, but emphasized that Mahomes has been fully cleared to participate. In other words, they're watching him closely, sure, but not because there's a red flag, because that's just what you do with your franchise quarterback coming off surgery. And then Mahomes himself weighed in, and his tone matched Reid's word for word. Mahomes echoed the optimism, remarking that he feels stronger than he's ever felt as far as strength and lifting. He didn't stop there either. He told reporters he felt amazing and that he was just excited to be able to play football again. Not exactly the language of a guy hiding a setback. He even had fun with the whole viral moment. When the team posted another clip of him back on the practice field, fully cleared, fans immediately zoomed in again, this time joking. He looked bigger than he had days earlier because of the camera angle. Mahomes quickly jumped into the comments with a lighthearted response, joking about the camera angle used in the video, which appeared to make him look bigger than he had earlier in the week. A guy worried about his own recovery narrative doesn't usually crack jokes about how jacked he looks on camera. He leaned into it. Reid's comments carried weight beyond just Mahomes, too. He was asked directly about wearing a brace, and Mahomes made clear there wasn't some rigid medical mandate behind it. Speaking with reporters after arriving at training camp, Mahomes said he doesn't expect the knee injury to change the way he plays, explaining there really isn't a plan for wearing a brace, that he's worn one before and feels comfortable with it. So that's where they'll start. But it's not something he's been told he has to do. That's the language of a guy calling his own shots, not one being managed around an injury he can't shake. Behind all of it sits a simple timeline. The Chiefs' 2026 training camp runs from July 28 to August 20 at Missouri Western State University in St. Joseph, before the team continues camp practices at their training facility next to Arrowhead Stadium. That's nearly a month of reps, walkthroughs, and joint work before the preseason even opens, which means every single day carries the chance for another clip to surface and another reaction cycle to spin up. And it already has, because tucked into that same stretch of camp, another video went semi-viral for a completely different reason, one that had nothing to do with recovery and everything to do with a rivalry that clearly hasn't cooled off since the calendar flipped from December. Back at the tail end of last season, Kansas City took a beating on Christmas Day, and the guy on the other sideline that day hasn't let it go. The Chiefs' Christmas Day loss to the Las Vegas Raiders can be traced back to when Kansas City was handed a wake-up call, with the Raiders handing them their behinds, but ultimately taking care of business when it counted. Travis Kelce didn't hide how much that game stung either, later venting on a podcast that the loss ruined their Christmas and that things nearly turned physical on the field. So when training camp opened this summer, a Raiders defender decided to poke the bear one more time. A video went viral of Raiders rookie Trey Taylor playing with a Kermit doll dressed as Mahomes, after a fan had brought it during an autograph session, and Taylor put the Muppet on his hand and had a laugh. It was small, it was silly, and it spread everywhere anyway, because rivalry content between these two teams doesn't need much of a push. Mahomes caught wind of it almost immediately. Asked how he became aware of the video, Mahomes said he thinks he saw it after finishing practice, or something in training camp, describing it as one of those long camp days, when it came across his timeline on Twitter, adding that was the first time he'd seen it. He wasn't rattled by it, but he wasn't about to just let it slide either. Reporters pushed him on it, wanting to know if the Chiefs planned any kind of response. Mahomes kept it short. He told reporters it will get handled when it gets handled. That's it. No specifics. Just a quiet promise sitting there, waiting for whenever these two teams line up again. While all the quarterback footage was pulling the headlines, something else was happening on a side field in St. Joseph that camp reporters couldn't stop talking about, and it had nothing to do with Mahomes' knee. Kansas City brought back a scheduling decision they'd skipped the year before, and it's already changing the entire flavor of camp. The Kansas City Chiefs brought back their rookie head start for 2026 training camp after opting against the 3-day head start last season, because Kansas City simply didn't have a large enough rookie class to justify the extra days, carrying a limited number of draft picks, UDFAs, and eligible second-year players. Reid himself admitted skipping it was a mistake. Reid has since changed his tune, telling reporters this week that skipping the head start last year was something he regretted after the fact, saying he just thought it was necessary. So this year, before a single veteran walked onto the practice field, the rookies got days of extra reps directly against air and against each other, and in some cases directly against Mahomes himself. Rookie wide receivers Cyrus Allen and Jeff Caldwell, along with several second-year players, are using the extra time to build chemistry with Mahomes before the full roster arrives. One name kept surfacing above the rest. Cyrus Allen, a fifth-round pick, turned heads almost immediately, and camp reporters latched onto one particular rep during red zone work. One of the highlights at practice Sunday was during the 7-on-7 period inside the red zone, when quarterback Patrick Mahomes surveyed the field and then completed a pass to rookie receiver Cyrus Allen, who made a leaping catch in the back of the end zone between two defenders. Allen didn't try to play it cool afterward either. He admitted it's still a surreal moment for him because he used to play the Madden NFL game with Mahomes a lot, saying he's pretty familiar with what Mahomes does and that the Chiefs were his favorite team growing up. The competition around him is real too. Allen will compete throughout camp against Nico Remigio and Jalen Royals for the number 4 receiver role, and Sunday's highlight was a positive sign for Allen, who used his route running ability, one of his best traits, to make himself available against the defense's zone coverage. He was refreshingly blunt about how different the league feels compared to college. Allen said everything is pretty much timing, adding that this isn't college anymore, this is big boy ball. So everything is pretty much timing. He wasn't the only rookie building buzz. A second-year receiver who spent all of last year fighting just to stay on the roster suddenly looked like a different player. Second-year wide receiver Jimmy Holiday, who spent last season on the practice squad, after a strong training camp and preseason, caught an impressive red zone touchdown during practice. And his development is a reminder of how valuable these reps can be for players on the roster bubble. On defense, the head start cuts both ways. Rookies get extra work, but they also get extra exposure to a future Hall of Fame arm before they're anywhere near game ready. Kansas City's young defenders are using the head start to sharpen their skills against Mahomes, with the early practices giving rookies a chance to face the QB while he ramps up his workload after a knee injury. Rookie corner Mansour Delane got a crash course in exactly what that means. Asked what it's like lining up against a 2-time MVP for the first time in his life, he kept it simple. Rookie cornerback Mansour Delane perhaps put it best when asked about going up against Mahomes, saying he's as advertised, and calling him a great quarterback. Delane wasn't just an observer either. He started camp working through his own recovery timeline, easing in carefully. Rookie cornerback Mansour Delane began his first NFL camp in a yellow non-contact jersey. The running back room had its own standout too. 5th-round pick Emmett Johnson spent his early camp answering the same kind of questions every rookie gets about touching the ball more. But he found a groove in something less flashy. Extra work with the machine that fires footballs at receivers and backs after practice ends. Johnson took a similar angle, fielding questions about his potential role in the receiving game. His extra post-practice work, catching passes from the jugs machine, his pre- and post-practice routines, and his appreciation for offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy's mentality, which brings up a name that kept coming out of players' mouths all week, one that had nothing to do with a specific play and everything to do with a tone shift across the entire building. If you scroll through camp interviews from the last few days, one initial keeps showing up: EB. Eric Bieniemy, the returning offensive coordinator, hasn't even started full squad practices yet, and he's already reshaping how this locker room talks about itself. Mahomes brought him up unprompted, and what he said carried a warning wrapped in praise. "They still haven't seen EB yet," Mahomes said while laughing, explaining that it's usually training camp when guys get tired and lose kind of that will to finish and do all the exact right things, and that's when EB's going to hold them to that standard, adding that he loves it, and truly does. That's Mahomes essentially telling his own teammates the hard part hasn't even started. He didn't stop there either. Mahomes said he thinks you can feel it in the meeting rooms, describing the way Bieniemy carries himself with the confidence that focuses you in on what you're learning. The little details, calling it exciting and saying that first meeting had him wanting to run through a brick wall, ready to go. 2 rookies backed that up almost word for word without being asked to. Both running back Emmett Johnson and receiver Cyrus Allen had similar thoughts on Bieniemy's hard-nosed coaching style, with Johnson saying he's going to push you a lot, that he wants the best from you at the end of the day, and that he doesn't take nothing personal. That energy is coming from somewhere real. Last season ended in a place this team hadn't been in years, and the guys who lived through it aren't shy about saying it still stings. The overall season, I think, bothered everyone, said Chris Jones, a 10-year veteran, adding that they're not used to finishing the season that early. In early January, calling it a first for him, not making the playoffs, not winning the AFC West, and calling it a lot of motivational points they can use for fuel, going into training camp. Reid noticed the shift happening long before pads went on. It started back in the spring, in the parts of the offseason nobody bothers filming. One of the first signs for Reid that his players were eager to rectify their mistakes from last season occurred during the Chiefs' offseason program, starting in April before the NFL draft, when Reid said the Chiefs had better attendance from players in previous years, even during the voluntary portion of practices, with veterans voicing to their teammates how they want the season to be different. He was also careful to point out that the accountability isn't just sitting on three shoulders. Reid emphasized that the Chiefs' leaders are not just the trio of Jones, tight end Travis Kelce, and quarterback Patrick Mahomes. That's a coach signaling he wants leadership spread across the whole roster this time, not concentrated in the same three names fans always default to. There's real injury news mixed into this stretch too, separate from the Mahomes storyline entirely. Rashee Rice, who's been dealing with his own knee procedure, got a clean bill from his coach heading into camp. Reid said that wide receiver Rashee Rice is doing great after his knee debridement surgery in May, and Rice's status will be one of the team's top stories when veteran players report to St. Joe, with Reid complimentary of Rice's rehab process. Even the coaching staff couldn't fully escape the camera this camp. One clip that made the rounds showed a former Chiefs backup quarterback turned broadcaster, spotting something in Mahomes' movement that fans latched onto instantly. Chase Daniel posted that Mahomes looks like he's being a little cautious with that left leg, noting that Reid and medical staff are watching him like a hawk and asking whether people think he plays in Week 1. That single post from a guy who used to hold a clipboard in this exact building was enough to send a fresh wave of camp footage circulating all over again. Every thread from camp: Mahomes' knee, Fields settling into a new QB room, rookies flashing in July heat. Bieniemy's return keeps circling back to the same overlapping question: can this specific group actually turn a viral practice clip into something that matters in January? Here's where all of this actually lands. None of these clips exist in a vacuum. They're stacking on top of each other, and together they're telling a story bigger than any single video. Start with the number that kicked this whole thing off. The clip on X has since gone viral, with more than 2 million views. That's not a fluke. That's a fan base that spent an entire offseason waiting to see their quarterback move like himself again. And the moment he did, they couldn't stop hitting share. Every camp video since has ridden that same wave. The walking clip, the rollout throw, the group QB room shot, even the Kermit doll. And the stakes behind all that scrolling are enormous. Mahomes will reportedly be ready to return as early as Week 1. That's the sentence every single one of these clips gets measured against. Every frame of him on that field either supports it or complicates it, and fans know it, which is exactly why they keep zooming in on his calf, his gait, his plant foot. The competition brewing underneath him is just as real as the recovery story. The Chiefs will likely ease Mahomes back before he takes over his QB1 job full-time, with Fields serving as his backup, while Nussmeier and Oladokun battle for the third-string role. That battle alone guarantees more camp footage worth sharing before August even ends. Every rep those four take together is going to get filmed, posted, and picked apart. Then there's the receiver room, which was thin enough last year that Reid changed his entire camp philosophy to fix it. The early returns suggest the decision is already paying dividends for Patrick Mahomes and a loaded group of first-year players. Allen, Caldwell, Holiday, none of those names meant anything to casual fans 2 weeks ago. Now they're showing up in highlight clips, getting shared alongside the franchise quarterback himself. The defense carries its own weight in this story too. A cornerback taking live reps against Mahomes in late July in a non-contact jersey, easing back from whatever landed him there in the first place. Tells you camp isn't just about the star names. Delane's status isn't concerning yet. That single line hanging out there is its own quiet storyline nobody's fully written yet. Even the noise that had nothing to do with football added its own layer. The Kermit doll, the Christmas Day loss still sitting unresolved, Kelce's raw description of that afternoon. None of it needed to be manufactured. It appears the Raiders have not yet gotten over that win over the reigning Super Bowl champions, with a video going viral of a Raiders safety playing with a Kermit the Frog doll at training camp. That's rivalry content born entirely out of camp footage, running parallel to everything else this month. What ties all of it together is one simple fact. Nothing here required a game to happen. Not one snap of real football has been played yet this season, and camp footage alone has already produced multiple viral moments. A recovery scare that flipped into relief within days, a rookie class turning heads before the vets even reported, and a returning coordinator whose name alone is enough to make grown professional athletes talk about running through walls. Reid's own words from months ago sum up why the volume around this camp feels different from years past. Starting in April, before the draft, the Chiefs had better attendance from players in previous years, even during the voluntary portion of practices, with veterans voicing to their teammates how they want the season to be different. That mindset didn't disappear once the calendar turned to July. It's what's fueling every one of these clips going around right now. A team that clearly decided last season wasn't happening twice, and a fan base that's watching every single frame of proof they can get their hands on. Training camp still has weeks left to run before the pads come off and preseason football actually starts. If the first stretch produced this much footage worth sharing, a torn ACL looking healed, a Muppet dressed as a three-time champion, a fifth-round rookie hauling in a leaping grab off the guy he used to control on a joystick, there's no reason to think the camera stopped rolling anytime soon. Whatever comes out of St. Joseph next is going to keep landing in the same place all of this has right back on everyone's timeline.